Hey guys, welcome to the video series on BigQuery. Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. Today we're going to talk about the routines in BigQuery. So without further ado, let's start. Routine is basically a logical grouping, or we can say a resource types that include stored procedure, user-defined functions, or table-valued function, and some people call it table functions too. So we'll look into them one by one. We'll start with stored procedure. Stored procedure is just a SQL code that we can save, so that code can be reused over and over again. So any SQL that we write, that we have to write like many times of the day, that can be saved as a stored procedures, and we just have to call it to execute. And it could be a simple SQL statements. It could be a collection of SQL statements. So if we coming from like RDBMS backgrounds, we already aware of it. So it's pretty same, nothing different. And we can also pass parameters to the stored procedures. To create a stored procedures, we use create procedure statement, and that is followed by the procedure name and the body of the procedure, which is basically the collection of SQLs, or a SQL appears between the begin and the end statement. So if you look at the screen here, the syntax is all like it's create procedure statement followed by the procedure name, and then it is begin and end. And in this statement here, like you will put your SQL statement or bunch or collection of SQL statements. Okay, let's jump to the BigQuery UI and see how we can create a stored procedure there. So let me go there. So this is the BigQuery, and here we have a data set named UDF, and in that there is a table called customer. If you click on this, it will give you information about this. So basically, it doesn't have much in it. It's just have an ID which is of string type, and you can see there is no data. It's a simple table with an ID, and that ID is of the string type, nothing else in there. So I already have my query ready. Let me pull that here. Let me copy paste here. Go to new composer and let me paste here. Okay. So you can look at the screen here, like the first statement, as we mentioned, like it's always like when we are creating a stored procedure, it starts with create procedure. And the best practice is to use create or replace, because if an existing stored procedure, you can override that. So you can see create or replace procedure, then the name of the procedure. So here the name of the procedure is create customer. And in the begin and end, it's basically is what we are trying to like this is our SQL query which we're trying to save as a stored procedures. So here, like at the line number 3, we are declaring a variable that is ID, and after that we are generating a unique ID like alphanumeric using a built-in function. And look, you can look into like line 5 and 6, we just inserting that ID into our customer table. And customer table, which I already mentioned, it's a table we already have in our data set, which have ID as a column, and it's an empty for now. So if we execute this, it will create a stored procedure for us. So as soon as it's complete, you will see routines here. So as I mentioned, like routine is just a logical grouping of these various stored procedure, user defined, or table functions. Okay, so now you see we have a stored procedure here, and we can close this. Okay, and if we go on our stored procedure, if you click on this, it will give you more information about the stored procedure. Okay, what is the stored procedure ID, when it was created, last modified, what is the what is the query. So if you see like from begin to end, everything is here what we executed in this. And if we have to invoke this, so basically we can click here, like we can click here through UI on invoke stored procedures, or we can go the classic way where we can call this stored procedure. So if I click on this, it will, yeah, so you see, and it giving us like call stored procedure name. But if you want, like you can directly call it, like you don't have to come here and click on this. If you click on run, and yes, so it's completed now. And now we will, okay, done. Now we'll go to our table, and there should be some record. Let me refresh this. expand, go to a table. So you see one record is there. So that was that stored procedure was doing. It was generating a unique ID using the built-in function, which is alphanumeric, and then inserting that record to our customer table. So that's how we create a stored procedure in BigQuery, which is pretty similar to like other database systems. Now let's go back to user-defined functions. So BigQuery has many built-in functions for performing calculations and transformations on the data, but sometimes we need to handle data in a unique way, or we need some customized way that is not provided by the built-in functions. So in those situations, user-defined is one of the efficient way to define those custom requirements. So for example, we trying to do something on our like on a string data set, but that capability is not directly available. So in those situations, we have to define our own functions. And user-defined function can be of two type, like temporary or persistent. The difference between both of them is not much in terms of like how we create them or define it. Like the syntax and all pretty same. It's just the difference is of the scope. So the scope of the temporary function is to a single query. So let's look at the syntax. Like here, let me go back. If you look at the bottom, this is the syntax. So syntax is pretty straightforward. So to create a UDF, we use create function statement, and then followed by the dataset name, function name, parameters, what will be the return type. So so generally like what kind of return, it could be string, integer, what kind of data it is going to return. And after S, it will be our SQL statement here. So this is the syntax. And in case of temporary, it will be just create temporary function. We're going to look in a bit, but that's the difference. And the difference between persistent and temporary is like persistent you can use on all the tables of the data sets, while temporary is scoped just to that single query where we are defining it. Okay, now let's go back to UI, and let me copy this. Okay. Copy paste. Sorry. So here we are defining a function. Its name is like if you look at the screen, the first line is, as I mentioned, we use create statement. The first line is using the create statement. Sorry, not like create function statement. So here we're using create or replace function. That's a best practice. And after that, our data set followed by the function name. So here the function name is cleansing string test, and the parameters, like what parameter we're passing. The return of this function will be string. And here, if you look at this line number 4, the function is basically whatever text we are passing, it will trim. So any like extra space or zeros that will be trimmed down, then it will convert into lower, and anything other than like alphanumeric will be replaced by like blank. Okay, so let's run this, and once we run this, you will find this, like we're going to see this in under routines only. So that's like what I'm trying to say, like routine is just a logical grouping. Like routine in itself does not have any definitions. If you want to say, you can say something which is reusable falls in the routines, but routine in general is just a logical grouping of standard procedure, user defined, and the table values. So if we click on create, and then you will see routine become 2. So now we see 2 routines here, and now we have a function cleanse string underscore, like cleanse underscore string underscore test. Okay, that's how we create the function. Now to invoke the function, what we have to do is basically, is just call the function in our query. So let me copy this, go back here, close, and like first you can see it's the function, when it was created, and all those information, and what is the query, routine query for it. Okay, and here you see like it's the function, the symbol of the stored procedure, and the function is same, but that should not be the case. You just, if you refresh it, it will show you, like, it will have that F sign in front of it, so that it shows it's a function, not a stored procedure. If we expand it again, we'll see this now. Yeah, sometimes like it take a bit, like when we create it, so you just need to refresh or like wait for a few seconds, it will work. Okay, 1 second, sorry, my bad. Let me copy this. Okay, so here you can see we are using a common table expression from here to here. We just creating like a table, a CTE table named strings, which have this hello world, I'm special, I'm special string, John Doe, and you can see we have like special characters and symbols in it, and we will use our cleans underscore string dot function to remove all those special characters and trim it down like any extra space, and also convert everything to lower. So here, from here to here, like from line number 1 to line number 6, is straightforward. And after that, uh, it's simple. Like it's just when you, like whatever function you're using, you use the like project name dot the data set name, the typical like a BigQuery way. Generally we use table, so here we give the function name, and then we pass the field or the column which we want to cleanse, or on which we want to use the stored user defined function. So let me run this. For this, we will see the output right away in the screen. So you can see hello world is converted into hello, like hello world, and after that 3 exclamatory signs is converted into hello world, and same for I'm a special string is converted into I'm special string, removing the dollar signs and converting everything to lower. Same with here, we remove the comma and convert it into lower. Okay, and this is a persistent or like permanent user-defined function. If we have to create a temporary one, it's simple too. Like let me copy this. So we'll use the same example, and sorry, my bad. So if you look at here, like it's, as I mentioned, like there is no major difference between temporary and persistent from syntax perspective. Like everything is same, except you use temp in front of function. There we don't have temp, here we have temp. And after that, like this, the major difference is the scope. So the scope of this temporary function is going to be just within this query, like within this, we can't use it on like on an existing table or something like that. So if you run this, like we're using the same, like a CTE table, and then using the same cleanse string function to clean it. So the concept is same. I just want to show you, like the scope is limited to this query, and we use temp function. That's the syntax wise, we need to add temp, and scope wise, it's just related to this query, while the cleanse string test can be used with other tables, with all the tables in UDF. Basically, if we run this, the output will be the same because we're using the similar CTE table. You run this. So you see. Okay, now let's go to the final topic, which, oh, sorry, my bad, which is the table valued function. So table value function is basically a user defined function that returns a table. So if you remember from the last user defined function, it was not returning a table. It was like it defined as a function which we applying on a field within a table, but here it returns a table. So to create a table value function, we use create or replace table function, or like create or replace table function statement. And a table function contains a query that produces a table. So if you look at the syntax in the on the screen from here to here, is basically we creating like create or replace table function, then the dataset name followed by the table valued function, then a parameter, we need to pass the parameter, and then the query. So this query returned a table. Okay, so let me show you in a much better way. Okay, let me paste this, and I'm going to attach the link of these queries so you can you can look by yourself too. So here you look, if you look at the screen, like it's the same thing: create or replace table function, then data type, then name of the function, and the parameter. So in this example, we passing this function takes a like integer 64 parameters and use this value inside the where clause over this public data set. So if you look at this, uh, int like y is of integer 64 type, and after that the query is like we selecting year, name, then an aggregation of numbers from this public data set, and in the where clause we putting this like where y equal like year equal to y. So if we create this table function, whenever we like by executing this, we will create a table function. But whenever we like invoking or calling this, we have to pass a year, which is basically like will pass to this underneath SQL query, and you will get the output to this table valued function. So let me run this very quickly. Okay, so now you can see name by year. That was the name of our table valued function. I can let me reload you because it's a function, so the symbol should be different, but it was not. Okay, let me expand this. So you can see we have 3 routines. So 1 and 2 are like one. This one is the our user defined function, stored procedure, and this is the table valued function. And now like we have created a table valued function. Let me close all this. Let me show you how to call it. Okay, so calling is not very complicated. It's simple like a so we call table valued function as a simple select statement by keeping in mind the parameter which we passing. If the parameter is wrong, we will not get any output. Okay, so my bad, I need to change this to UDF. Okay, so you can see name by year is actually a function, and we are calling it as a table and passing like one parameter which we define. Like if I click on this before running this, I'll show you. So you can see table function ID created and all, but you can see the query which is using, and here in the where clause year equal to y, which is the parameter we have to pass whenever we invoking this table function basically. And that's what we are doing here. Like we calling like we calling using a select statement, but we have to pass this. If we don't pass it, like it won't run. Here we will get some output, and it's a public data set. So you see we get top 5 records here. Okay, and if we have to drop them, like let's say if we have to drop any routines, we can use like drop statement, or we can click here and click on this. In that way we will be able to drop it. And BigQuery have its a system routine table which provides more details about its routine. So let me very quickly show you that too. So it's basically under information schema dot routines. So like your data set, then information schema dot routines. So if you do this, and we should have 3 records in it. Okay, let me expand this. So you can see I have 3 records because we have 3 routines in it. Then it gives you like metadata related to the routines, like about like what kind of routine is it, like it's a procedure, table functions, function, even it give you the name of it, definitions, like what definition was it, like those kind of like information which is which could be pretty handy for like audit purposes and all. Okay, so that's all for this video. Keep learning and stay tuned. Have a good one.